So we have, in addition to if, right? To be a true follower of the rule, the do you like me note, we would probably want something more like this, right? So if I have a Boolean variable called you like me, and that is equal to true, then it will print yes. Otherwise, or else, it will print no. So now we have two different code blocks. One gets executed if it's true, and the other gets executed if it's not true. So if that is equal to true, it does this. Otherwise, it does this. And when it's finished doing one or the other, and it will always do one or the other. Anytime you see else, you could change that in your mind to otherwise. Like if nothing else is true above that, then we're definitely going to do this. And then it will continue on executing the code following that. But wait, there's more. If I have multiple things that could be true in my code, I can use something called elif. Now you'll notice I have if on the top. So if that first thing is true, where it says expression, if the first expression value comes out to true, then it will do that. And it will skip the rest. That's important to remember. If it does this, if expression is true and it prints this is true, it will skip the rest. Even if this is true, it will get skipped. Once it finds something that's true, it goes down that road and that's it. It's like you're walking through the woods, right? And you come to a fork in the road. You can only pick one. You can't go down this one and that one at the same time. So that's how these work. The first road that it finds that is true, that's the one it goes down, and that's it. So if the first expression is not true, then it will go to elif and it will say, is other expression true? If that's true, then it will do that one. If it's not, otherwise, we print neither thing is true. Now, there's some rules about this. If you want to use an if statement in your code, you obviously must always have one if. You may have only one if per branch. You may or may not have an else. So if you just have an if with no else, it'll either do the thing or it'll do nothing. If I have an if and an else, it'll either do one or the other. If I have more things, more options, right? More other expressions, I can have as many elifs as I want. Each one of those statements with the colon at the end, right, has to have a code block associated with it or you will get an error. So how might that work in code? Let's check this out. So if I say x equals 3, if I say if x is less than 2, see, I could use parentheses or not, but I'll use them so I don't confuse people. Print x is less than 2. Maybe I have an else. Print x is another number. Okay, so either x is going to be less than 2 or it's not. But let's say I want to get more detailed about this. Let's say if I want to track whether x is something else, I can say elif, and that one has to have a statement associated with it. So I have to have a comparison statement here where I say x is greater than or equal to 2 and x is less than 5. And then I can print x is between 2 and 5. So now you can kind of see where that logic goes. And if I print this, obviously, this is the one that's true. So if I run this, it prints x is between 2 and 5. What is x? What's going to print now? The first one, the second one, or the third one? Which one? Third one? The middle one? How many people say the middle one is going to print? How many people say the first one is going to print? Okay. So it's the middle one again, because right here, what's an integer that x would have to be in order to get that first one to print? 1, right? 1 or less. It could be negative 1 million because integers can be negative, but anything less than 2, right? It actually has to be less than 2 for it to work. And here it's 2 greater than or equal to 2. So it has to be greater than or equal to 2. So 2 and up, and also less than 5. So the range there is 2, 3, and 4 that would print that middle one, right? And then if I say x equals 5, then it prints the third one. So that is a valid use for if, elif, else. Now, a lot of people, including maybe some of you, are going to try to do this. X is greater than or equal to 5. This code will do the same thing that I just showed you, right? Do we all agree on that? It will do the same thing, but it's bad technique. And when you get into more complicated programs, doing this instead of if, elif, else could lead to unintended errors. And the main reason for that is because you're basically giving somebody 3 different forks in the road, right? I talked about this. We're walking through the woods. We come to a path. In my program, what I'm intending to happen is only one of these things can happen. That's what I want. That's the intended outcome. And so if that is my intent, if I want only one of these things to happen, then I want to give the user just one fork in the road with 3 choices. And that way my program does exactly what it's supposed to do. And if by doing it the right way, what I'm ensuring is the user has to take one of those choices. They have to. If I, well, let me redo those. But if I go back to the other, where I have 3 ifs, x is greater than or equal to 5, there we go. If I have these 3 choices, the user could technically end up going down all 3 of those roads. Now they won't because my logic is pretty tight here, but they could. Or they could end up going down none of the roads, which could be disastrous also. So the other one is just cleaner. It makes sure that the user takes one of the paths. Because when I have an else, remember, that's the otherwise. That's the if none of these other things is true, you're definitely doing this one. That's what it means. That's what when we say else, that's what it means. So we really want to make sure that we're doing this properly with if, elif, else. If we have 3 choices, we want the user to take one of them, we do this. If we're saying we're going to give you 3 different choices, but they're unrelated to each other, and you could choose to do or not do each one of those independently, that's when you use three different if statements. But if it's a choice between three things and they must choose one of those three, it's if, elif, and else. Okay.